Hello everyone, welcome back to another lecture video. Today what we got going on, we're going to be talking about our last major unit of the semester, web design. So what we're going to be doing today, talking a little bit about what that prompt is, what you'll be expected to do, and kind of outline what we got going on for the remainder of the semester. We don't have a lot of time left, so this is the home stretch. And again, you're all doing really good work. I'm really pleased with the progress everyone is making. So keep up the good work, just a little bit more, and we'll be done with this semester. So today we're going to talk about the prompt, think about the goals of this project. As for the Unit 2 projects, those should be graded within a few days. Still got a few trickling in, so be on the lookout for those. And probably in about a week or so, I will assign the Unit 2 uptake. So I'll give you some time to kind of rest and recharge from what you just turned in, the personal portfolio. It'll be another short little piece giving you some additional time to reflect on the work you've done as we close out this part of the project and the class. So that's what we got going on today. So before we get started with a discussion on Unit 3, the first thing I have for you is a TED Talk focused on motivation. So we're in the home stretch of the semester, and it's important to just kind of keep that in mind, that even though we might be mentally ready to be done, there still are a few things that need to be finished. So the TED Talk I have for you is by a guy named Tim Urban, who does a really interesting talk about procrastination and kind of the mental effects that can have on us. So this is a TED Talk that I found really interesting, something that I've been showing in my classes for a few years now. It's just a really good video, and it also gives us an opportunity to think about what motivates us and what kind of steps we need to take to make sure we're doing what we need to do to accomplish our goals academically, professionally, otherwise. So I've got that set up next. So check this out, and there will be a forum post kind of giving you an opportunity to build off this and reflect on how you motivate yourself.
So in college, I was a government major, which means I had to write a lot of papers. Now, when a normal student writes a paper, they might spread the work out a little like this. So, you get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first week that with some heavier days later on, everything gets done and things stay civil. And I would want to do that like that. That would be the plan. I would have it all ready to go, but then actually the paper would come along, and then I would kind of do this. And that would happen every single paper. But then came my 90-page senior thesis, a paper you're supposed to spend a year on. I knew for a paper like that, my normal workflow was not an option. It was way too big a project. So I planned things out, and I decided it kind of had to go something like this. This is how the year would go. So I'd start off light, and I'd bump it up in the middle months. And then at the end, I would kick it up into high gear. It's just like a little staircase. How hard could it be to just walk up the stairs? No big deal, right? But then, funniest thing happened. Those first few months, they came and went, and I couldn't quite do stuff. So we had an awesome new revised plan. But then those middle months actually went by, and I didn't really write words. And so we were here. And then 2 months turned into 1 month, which turned into 2 weeks. And one day I woke up with 3 days until the deadline, still not having written a word. And so I did the only thing I could. I wrote 90 pages over 72 hours, pulling not one but 2 all-nighters. Humans are not supposed to pull 2 all-nighters. Sprinted across campus, dove in slow motion, and got it in just at the deadline. I thought that was the end of everything. But a week later, I get a call. And it's the school. And they say, "Is this Tim Urban?" And I say, "Yeah." And they say, "We need to talk about your thesis." And I say, "Okay." And they say, "It's the best one we've ever seen." That did not happen. It was a very, very bad thesis. I just wanted to enjoy that one moment when all of you thought, this guy is amazing. No, it was very, very bad. Anyway, today I'm a writer, blogger guy. I write the blog Wait, But Why? And a couple of years ago, I decided to write about procrastination. My behavior has always perplexed the non-procrastinators around me, and I wanted to explain to the non-procrastinators of the world what goes on in the heads of procrastinators and why we are the way we are. Now, I had a hypothesis that the brains of procrastinators were actually different than the brains of other people. And to test this, I found an MRI lab that actually let me scan both my brain and the brain of a proven non-procrastinator, so I could compare them, and I actually brought them here to show you today, and I want you to take a look carefully to see if you can notice a difference. And I know that if you're not a trained brain expert, it's not that obvious, but just take a look, okay? So here's the brain of a non-procrastinator. Now, here's my brain. There is a difference. Both brains have a rational decision maker in them, but the procrastinator's brain also has an instant gratification monkey. Now, what does this mean for the procrastinator? Well, it means everything's fine until this happens. So the rational decision maker will make the rational decision to do something productive, but the monkey doesn't like that plan. So he actually takes the wheel and he says, actually, let's read the entire Wikipedia page of the Nancy Kerrigan-Tonya Harding scandal because I just remembered that happened. Then we're going to go over to the fridge. We're going to see if there's anything new in there since 10 minutes ago. After that, we're going to go on a YouTube spiral that starts with videos of Richard Feynman talking about magnets and ends much, much later with us watching interviews with Justin Bieber's mom. All of that's going to take a while, so we're not going to really have room on the schedule for any work today. Sorry. Now, what is going on here? The instant gratification monkey does not seem like a guy you want behind the wheel. He lives entirely in the present moment. He has no memory of the past, no knowledge of the future, and he only cares about two things: easy and fun. Now, in the animal world, that works fine. If you're a dog and you spend your whole life doing nothing other than easy and fun things, you're a huge success. And to the monkey, humans are just another animal species. He has to keep well slept, well fed, and propagating into the next generation, which in tribal times might have worked okay. But if you haven't noticed, now we're not in tribal times. We're in an advanced civilization, and the monkey does not know what that is, which is why we have another guy in our brain, the rational decision maker, who gives us the ability to do things no other animal can do. We can visualize the future. We can see the big picture. We can make long-term plans. And he wants to take all of that into account, and he wants to just have us do whatever makes sense to be doing right now. Now, sometimes it makes sense to be doing things that are easy and fun, like when you're having dinner or going to bed or enjoying well-earned leisure time. That's why there's an overlap. Sometimes they agree. But other times, it makes much more sense to be doing things that are harder and less pleasant for the sake of the big picture, and that's when we have a conflict. And for the procrastinator, that conflict tends to end a certain way every time, leaving him spending a lot of time in this orange zone, an easy and fun place that's entirely out of the make sense circle. I call it the dark playground. Now, the dark playground is a place that all of you procrastinators out there know very well. It's where leisure activities happen at times when leisure activities are not supposed to be happening. The fun you have in the dark playground isn't actually fun because it's completely unearned, and the air is filled with guilt, dread, anxiety, self-hatred, all those good procrastinator feelings. And the question is, in this situation, with the monkey behind the wheel, how does the procrastinator ever get himself over here to this blue zone? A less pleasant place, but where really important things happen. Well, turns out that the procrastinator has a guardian angel, someone who's always looking down on him and watching over him in his darkest moments, someone called the panic monster. Now, the panic monster is dormant most of the time, but he suddenly wakes up anytime a deadline gets too close or there's danger of public embarrassment, a career disaster, or some other scary consequence. And importantly, he's the only thing that the monkey is terrified of. Now, he became very relevant in my life pretty recently because the people of TED reached out to me about 6 months ago and invited me to do a TED Talk. Now, of course, I said yes. It's always been a dream of mine to have done a TED Talk in the past. But in the middle of all this excitement, the rational decision maker seemed to have something else in his mind. He was saying, are we clear on what we just accepted? Do we get what's going to be now happening one day in the future? We need to sit down and work on this right now. And the monkey said, totally agree, but also let's just open Google Earth and let's zoom into the bottom of India, like 200 feet above the ground, and we're going to scroll up for 2.5 hours till we get to the top of the country so we can get a better feel for India. So that's what we did that day. As 6 months turned into 4, and then 2, and then 1, the people of TED decided to release the speakers. And I opened up the website, and there was my face staring right back at me, and guess who woke up? So the panic monster starts losing his mind, and a few seconds later, the whole system's in mayhem. And the monkey, who, remember, he's terrified of the panic monster, boom, he's up the tree. And finally, the rational decision maker can take the wheel and I can start working on the talk. Now, the panic monster explains all kinds of pretty insane procrastinated behavior, like how someone like me could spend 2 weeks unable to start the opening sentence of a paper and then miraculously find the unbelievable work ethic to stay up all night and write 8 pages. And this entire situation with the 3 characters, this is the procrastinator's system. It's not pretty, but in the end, it works. And this is what I decided to write about on the blog just a couple years ago. Now, when I did, I was amazed by the response. Literally thousands of emails came in from all different kinds of people, from all over the world, doing all different kinds of things. These were people who were nurses and bankers and painters and engineers and lots of PhD students. And they were all writing saying the same thing. I have this problem too. But what struck me was the contrast between the light tone of the post and the heaviness of these emails. These people were writing with intense frustration about what procrastination had done to their lives, about what this monkey had done to them. And I thought about this, and I said, well, if the procrastinator system works, then what's going on? Why are all these people in such a dark place? Well, turns out that there's 2 kinds of procrastination. Everything I've talked about today, the examples I've given, they all have deadlines. And when there's deadlines, the effects of procrastination are contained to the short term because the panic monster gets involved. But there's a second kind of procrastination that happens in situations when there is no deadline. So if you want to have a career where you want to be a self-starter, something in the arts, something entrepreneurial, there's no deadlines on those things at first because nothing's happening at first, not until you've gone out and done the hard work to get some momentum, to get things going. There's also all kinds of important things outside of your career that don't involve any deadlines, like seeing your family or exercising and taking care of your health, working on your relationship or getting out of a relationship that isn't working. Now, if the procrastinator's only mechanism of doing these hard things is the panic monster, that's a problem because in all of these non-deadline situations, the panic monster doesn't show up. He has nothing to wake up for. So the effects of procrastination, they're not contained. They just extend outward forever. And it's this long-term kind of procrastination that's much less visible and much less talked about than the funnier, short-term, deadline-based kind. It's usually suffered quietly and privately. And it can be the source of a huge amount of long-term unhappiness and regrets. And I thought, that's why these people are emailing, and that's why they're in such a bad place. It's not that they're cramming for some project. It's that long-term procrastination has made them feel like a spectator at times in their own lives. The frustration was not that they couldn't achieve their dreams, it's that they weren't even able to start chasing them. So I read these emails, and I had a little bit of an epiphany that I don't think non-procrastinators exist. That's right. I think all of you are procrastinators. Now, you might not all be a mess, like some of us, And some of you may have a healthy relationship with deadlines. But remember, the monkey's sneakiest trick is when the deadlines aren't there. Now, I want to show you one last thing. I call this a life calendar. That's one box for every week of a 90-year life. That's not that many boxes, especially since we've already used a bunch of those. So I think we need to all take a long, hard look at that calendar. And we need to think about what we're really procrastinating on, because everyone is procrastinating on something in life. We need to stay aware of the instant gratification monkey. That's a job for all of us. And because there's not that many boxes on there, it's a job that should probably start today. Well, maybe not today, but sometime soon. Thank you.
So that is one of my favorite TED Talks, one of my favorite videos to show in class for a variety of reasons. Mostly because I tend to procrastinate quite a bit myself, so it's always good to see this, to watch this, and remind myself, like, hey, there's still a whole lot of shit you need to get done. So you can't just sit around screwing around on Reddit or YouTube or whatever it is it might be. It's important to stay motivated and realize there are times when we need to buckle down, really focus in on the goals at hand so we can finish those and earn that leisure time instead of just having that unearned time to just kind of screw around where we're just overcome with a feeling of dread like we heard discussed in the video. So that takes me to this next slide, which is a option for you for your weekly forum posts. And this one is specifically focused on motivation. So you can use your forum post around 200, 250 words in length to focus on what do you do to stay motivated. So now that we have time outside of class, how do you make sure you're not falling behind? What tricks, what techniques have worked for you in the past? Is there anything new that you've started doing just over these past few weeks to help keep you focused on what it is you need to do? What habits do you need to avoid? What do you personally know that gets you in a lot of trouble in terms of keeping up on things? So me personally, one of the things I bought to keep myself a little bit more motivated at the start of this year is a little whiteboard by the side of my desk. And on that board, I'm able to write things that I need to do on any particular day. So if I'm able to visualize it, if I'm able to see it, and every time I'm sitting at my computer, I can see it out of the corner of my eye. And that's something that helps keep me motivated. Lists in general seem like a really good way, something that's helpful for me. But for the forum posts, this is an opportunity for you to think about what do you do to stay motivated and how can you focus in on that to make sure you're getting the work you need done. So consider that for your forum post. Take about 200, 250 words and do some quality writing on that. So the first thing I want to do is go over the Unit 3 prompt and some general information in terms of what this project is, what you'll be producing, why we're doing it, all that good stuff. So the Unit 3 prompt is up on ReggieNet right now, so if you haven't had a chance to read through that, definitely check that out before we get any further here. So your Unit 3 project is due May 1st by midnight, which is right around the end of the semester. So there have been due date extensions and kind of floating due dates for everything for a little while now. But for this last project, there's not really an option for that since the semester is ending, so I will need to have those and have them graded relatively soon after the end of the semester, end of final exams. So in terms of what this project is, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be designing a website, and the content is up to you. It's probably a good idea to think about maybe some of your other projects, maybe gear this as a website that's about your future career or maybe something you're interested in researching, but you can build your website based on whatever you want, whatever you find interesting. So we're going to be using Weebly or Wix, or you can use really any similar website builder you want. I just have Weebly and Wix up there because those you can get free accounts for and you don't have to pay for anything, which you spend enough money at ISU so you don't need to be spending like an extra $20 or whatever it is for a website domain. So these are free website builders. So that's what I would suggest you use. So also for this project, you're not going to have to learn to code from scratch or anything like that. Weebly and Wix are really simple to use, mostly just kind of drag and drop. I do have a Weebly tutorial that I will be posting pretty shortly that will kind of walk you through some of the steps and the mechanics of building Weebly. So with this unit, what we're going to be doing is focusing in on digital media and how to use a wide variety of tools in the context of a single project. So we'll talk about visuals and audio a little bit over the next few weeks. So this is a fun and interesting project, but also something that's really practical and will give you some good skills that you can put on your resume. So in terms of what you will produce, what kind of website you will build, I kind of hinted at this a little bit earlier in the previous slide, but for this you can build a website on whatever you want. So in the past, something that a lot of people have done is use this as an opportunity to make a digital resume. That was how this project got started when I taught business writing. It's just something that a lot of people have done. That's something really useful. Helps you stand out, especially if you're an upper division student, junior, senior. It might be useful to go that route. So you can do that. Another thing you can do is write a website specifically focused on your major, what you've learned, key concepts, key things you're interested in researching. That has also worked well in the past, and also that can easily transition to a more professional website once you kind of get to that upper division level. So if you want to build your website focused on your major, focused on the things you've learned so far at your time here at ISU, that's another really good option. And you can also write about things that you're passionate about. So if there's a particular issue you are really supportive of, you can write about that. You can make a website dedicated to that. Maybe you've done some volunteer work or something, you can do that. Or if there's a community organization that you belong to and they need a website, you could build them one. I had students do that in the past for various clubs here at ISU. You could also write about if you're more economically minded or you're like a business major or something and want to make a professional website for a business you have, you could do that. Really, the choice is just up to you. Anything you want to do is perfectly fine by me. So pick something that you're interested in, pick something that you're passionate about to make this project go a little better.
In terms of project objectives, something we want to focus on is design and theory. And specifically, that's understanding how images and videos and other forms of new media can function rhetorically. So we want to think about how these various pieces of media can contribute to a piece of writing, and specifically to our websites. But we can also take the skills and ideas we learn and apply this to any kind of media or composition you might be doing in the future. So another thing we want to be thinking about is how an audience takes up the media we use. So later on in this unit, we are going to discuss pop culture, movies, videos, and music, and talk about the messages that are disseminated by some of the things that we are really interested in, some of the artists and movies that we really like. Because we might interpret a song or a movie one way, but other people might look at things drastically differently. And as we're presenting our projects, as we're presenting our material, if we're using a piece of multimedia like that, something we want to be very sure of is the fact that our audience knows or our audience has a similar perception in terms of what this piece of media might mean. So we're also going to use this to think about how are we going to be designing things in digital spaces. So with our projects here, we don't want to just kind of throw pictures or YouTube videos in at happenstance. That's not really going to be the best way for audiences to take a material or to really have them engage in the work that we're doing. We also want to think about how does social media and our posts contribute to our identity. We might discuss that a little bit more in some detail. I have some reading set aside for that. And with your websites, you can easily integrate social media feeds, Twitter feeds, stuff like that into your page if that's something you're interested in. But if you want to expand on your identity a little bit and perhaps show something a bit more personal in these websites, which again has some benefits and some drawbacks, but generally I think it's a good strategy to humanize yourself rhetorically speaking. Another thing to consider is what implications can the digital world have on our future employment goals. So with the internet, things are kind of forever, so whatever we post on Twitter, whatever we post on Facebook, that's not necessarily going to go away. So it's important to think about what we're doing online and how that can contribute to our identity in numerous ways.
So in terms of the contract, how you will be assessed, so there's two aspects that are going to go into this. The first one being content and design. So with this aspect, I'm looking to see, are your pages fully developed? So do you have a good amount of content on there, or do you just kind of have titles and a sentence or two? So with your websites, with your pages, you want to think, do you have enough information there? Are people going to be left with questions, or are you able to answer everything? So that might be something you focus in on peer review later in the semester. Also think about, is your site easy to navigate? So do people have to search, or do they have to dig around to find the information that's relevant, or is it easy to find? So I think there's some old adage that it should take you no more than 3 clicks to find whatever it is you need. And we'll talk about crop design and other various design principles a little bit later on in this unit. And the other aspect of the contract is on use of media. So with the website, you are able to integrate a whole litany of media into your project. Videos, audio, images, whatever it might be. It's pretty easy to do with Weebly and Wix. So I want to see that, are you actually making effective use of this given the affordances of an online project? Are you using media, and are you using media that makes sense, or are you just kind of dropping things in at happenstance? So that is the criteria for the unit project. Finally, there are some resources available to you. So up on ReggieNet, there will be a handout and a video dedicated to the basics of editing on Weebly. So that will be linked for you. Weebly is a free-to-use website builder. It's mostly click and drag, and the walkthrough I have, the little tutorial, should help you with that. You also have other options for free website builders. Weebly is the one I use. Wix is another one as well. But for this project, you are free to use whatever it is you want, whatever tools you feel comfortable with. It's entirely up to you. And that is it for Unit 3. These are the resources available to you. As with every project this semester, if you have any questions, if anything's unclear, feel free to get in contact with me. We can set up a virtual office hours appointment. We can discuss that, and I can try to clarify anything that might be confusing to you.